My God, my God, my God. Thank you, thank you. Thank you to everyone for taking the time to talk about social media. Chris, Bianca, you guys were awesome, and it's hard to follow you. I will pick up threads from both of them. From Chris, I love the theme of good versus evil. And when you know evil, and you know good, you need to draw the line. And I think that's part of where he comes in, is we need to draw the line. It's very easy to cross between good to evil. And from Bianca, I like the sensitivity, and from there, I guess this is how I'm going to begin. Her whole presentation was actually about sensitivity to other people, being aware, the golden rule, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Social media for me is where religion meets science. And the phrase, when Bianca was talking about sensitivity, I thought about what Muslims use to justify terrorism. What they say is, when one Muslim hurts, we all hurt. And that's part of what justifies terrorism. The ideas I'm going to show you now actually came from studying evil, and what we want to do is to use it for good. It came from studying terrorism and how terrorism spreads. And strangely enough, that actually those ideas are the foundation of the social network theory behind Rappler. So let me start with where we go. Where are we today? Well, right now, you are you. It is about perspective. We're in this room, inside the Asian Institute of Management. If you just look in front of you, you're going to see the head of a person. If you look next to you, you're going to see the face of another person. But now pull out in perspective, because this is what technology allows us to do. You pull up. If you pull up a lot, you can see the city of Makati. If you pull up a lot higher, you can actually see the isthmus where Makati is. If you pull up broader, you start to see the outlines of the Philippines. Why am I showing you this? This reminds me of the old cartoons, when you start on the street and you go up and it ends with the globe. Because this is what technology now allows us to do, and what social media allows us to chart. We can chart the human superorganism. We are all connected. Never in the history of man has 950 million people been connected on one social media platform. That's only one, on Facebook. So when you pull out all the way to this, and then you pull out even more, this is what you get. Let's click. That becomes the globe, and then you can get God's eye view. Never has man really been able to see this. What do I mean by that? Social media now allows us to track and get visualizations of the way we behave as people that we've never seen. Let me show you 4 examples. No, they're not Rorschach tests. They are really what you do on social media. On A is the Fukushima reactor, the earthquake in Japan. It's #Japan. And if you take a look at the patterns, you can see what happens during a disaster. The hubs are information centers, and people form communities around the information centers, and that's what happens. People are looking for communities. So that's #Japan. B, over here to the right, that's from the US, and the hashtag is #GOP. It's during the Republican National Convention, and what you can see there is exactly what happens when you have polarized political parties, and when a whole lot of people, millions of people, are tweeting. And you get that pattern, God's eye view of the way people polarized, Republicans versus Democrats. That's that one here, B. C, below to the left, if you look at it, interconnected hubs coming together, communities forming around them. Hubs are the ones who spread out, who ripple messages, and then when they come together and then they intertwine on themselves, that's a revolution. That's #Egypt. That's what it looks like from God's eye view. And then D is Syria. #Syria. And it's interesting because this is actually, is this a stage before you go to see? If that all folds in on itself, does that become a revolution like in Egypt? These are some of the questions I ask when I start to see these visualizations. We can now we are forming a human superorganism. And each one of us is actually a cell in that human superorganism. So this is very cool to me. God's eye view. Let me bring you to the Philippines, just so you can see how we look. This is the Corona impeachment trial. This is actually only one hashtag. And I chose this hashtag because we have one of the major spreaders, ripple effect people, Twitters there, here with us. And I'll show you the impact that that one person has. So this is I Am Super Bianca, the woman you just heard. She has 1.7 million Twitter followers. This is her community that she built inside that universe of the Corona impeachment trial. So I colored it in orange so that you can see the network. It spreads. There are social network rules for this, 3 degrees of influence. In our earlier morning session, our IMAP president actually said that on Twitter, it's no longer 6 degrees of separation, it's 4 degrees, and 3 degrees of influence is the normal way that you spread it. Sorry, I get geeky on these things, so tell me to shut up if it gets too geeky. But this is God's eye view of the way we behave as people. It's fantastic. Now, if good can spread this way, evil can spread this way. Evil does spread this way. The things that you're seeing now after 9/11 spread through social networks. We can spread good. So let's go to the real world things in between. So we're no longer at God's eye view. We're coming down. This is what revolution looks like on the ground. And what triggered the Arab Spring? Well, again, some of you might have heard me say this, but it is because of social media. Why? Let's go to the next slide. Because 2009 was the tipping point. It really was a tipping point. And if you didn't know that in June 2009, social media became it hit the tipping point where there are more people there so that you can actually push change in the real world. There are enough of us now on social media to do social good. And that's why it's so interesting. In the old days, and this is when we learned communication theory, the medium is the message, is what Marshall McLuhan said. Today, the medium is not the message. The medium, the internet and social media, is evolving us and changing human behavior. I used to have really dry slides next to show you how we do that. Now, we went from the human super microorganism. Now we go to you. Each of you, the cells of that human this human superorganism. Chini Diaz is a blogger. I know she's here. Where are you, Chini? During the IMAP, I was talking about how our bodies are changed by the chemicals that happen when you're on social media. And Chini did a great sequence of cartoons that explains it much better than my boring slides did. So I asked her if I could use it. Here's what happens when you're on Facebook or Twitter. Your body actually has 2 elevated levels of 2 chemicals. The same chemical that kicks in when you're falling in love, when you're having sex, when you're taking a risk, and then when you're taking crystal meth, although Chini said don't do that. Or when you're jumping out with a parachute. So what is that chemical? It's called dopamine. Your dopamine levels increase when you're on social media. And you know how they found this out? They did fMRI, functional magnetic resonance imaging studies, brain scans. So then what happens when you're on Facebook and Twitter? Well, you're actually doing a double loop of dopamine. You're getting 2 doses of dopamine. Number 1, because you're talking about yourself. And we actually like that, as Bianca says, in moderation. But that's why we also like social media. We share. That's a basic human need. And then when you get reactions from your friends like likes, comments, retweets, favorite, reblog, when you get that reinforcement pushes up your levels of dopamine. That's interesting. So you're really super excited. And that's part of the reason social media is mildly addictive. Next one. Hugging. Why is tweeting like hugging? Because When you're on social media, when you're on Twitter, your body starts to produce higher levels of a chemical called a hormone called oxytocin. Oxytocin happens when you hug someone longer than 6 seconds. The body starts to produce higher levels of oxytocin. When you're having sex, again, that sex thing. See, this is why it did dislodge porn as the #1 activity on the internet in June of 2009. So tweeting is like hugging. And then I think she has her husband saying, cray, cray. And then finally, let's move to the next slide. You get addicted to it. You get addicted to dopamine, and that's part of the reason you keep going back to social media. So if you look at it, again, she's going back I need my dopamine fix, man. That's actually what we're like. So on a cellular level, we're more hyper, we're more emotional, we behave differently. And then not only do we behave differently emotionally, our brains, the synapses in our brains are actually being rewired by the constant interruptions of your cell phone. It's almost like if you're walking a straight path, when you're listening to a speaker and then you're just listening, your neurons will just follow a straight path. But when your phone buzzes and you look down, your brain cell moves to the right. Now, if this keeps happening, it keeps moving to the right instead of going straight. So at some point, it rewires the brain so it doesn't go straight anymore. It keeps turning to the right. This is what the technology does. It is evolving our brains. It is literally changing and rewiring your brains. So what does that mean? I took you from God's eye view to the cellular level of us and how we're being changed by the technology we're using, right? Next slide.